Well, good morning, little lady. You ready? You want to plant some onions? Here's Bella. She's the employee of the month. Not you, you little bastard. Alright, so let me, we're going to do a quick little video here on planting onions, but these are not going to be the normal onions that, well, these are not going to be my normal bulbing onions. I'm going to be planting is, like garlic chives, this Japanese bunching onion, and white Lisbon onions, which these are great for pickling and stuff if you like pickling onions. And it's pretty simple. But before we get started on that, one thing you guys might notice is I have my you see all that water in there? This is very important, is for your soil to be moist to start off with. And when I say moist, I don't mean just the top. I mean this whole thing has to be moist. Not soaking wet, but it needs to be moist. And I'll explain to you. I'm going to give you an example in this video as to why it being moist all the way through is important. So now I've been soaking these for, I think, 12 hours now. So now I'm just going to take them out of this water and I'm going to put them in a dry tray. And we'll get rid of this water. We don't need that water anymore. But basically, so the reason why I start these types of onions at a different time than I do my bulbing onions is because my bulbing onions, I planted them 2 months ago, and they're down in the basement. They're doing fantastic. So those have to be started earlier. But these here that you guys are seeing that I'm going to plant here, these are for sale. I'm going to be selling these. So the purpose I start them later than the regular onions is because I don't want these to be too big, because that would defeat the purpose, of the customer buying them and actually having the pleasure of growing them in their own home. So I want them to be small. I don't want them to be, super big. Now what I'm doing is I'm putting, just right in the middle, I'm putting roughly about, between 10 and 15 seeds. So now what I'm going to do, so now this whole thing is very moist. I'm just going to take some vermiculite, if you guys can see that, and I'm just going to make sure that these are covered, just covered with some vermiculite. If you don't have vermiculite, don't worry about it. You can use a very fine layer of potting soil or seed starting mix, but it can't be too big of a layer, because onions are very tough plants. But onion seeds, when they're coming up, they're like a very, very, microscopic little blade of a grass that's trying to push. So if there's too much pressure on them, like in soil wise, that little blade of grass is going to have a hard time. So you want very, very lightly. And that's it. You guys see what I'm doing here? And then I'm just going to tap down really gently just to make sure that there's contact. Okay. Let me take it here. Let me show you what I did. So basically I already have stuff germinating here. Yeah, you see that? I got stuff germinating there. But you see what I did is this tray here is halfway into the heat mat. But onions, I don't like to put my onions of any sort on heat mats. That's why, you see this? I keep the onions off the heat mat. Because onions actually like the soil to be a little bit cold in order to germinate. Onions don't really like heat like tomatoes and peppers that you see there. Onions are different, which is cool. So let me give you guys a quick example. You see right here outside on my deck, you see these onions were totally dormant, 2 weeks ago. But look, you see the soil, they're out here at nighttime, 31 degrees. But that right there, they love it. They're already coming back. So that shows you that onions do like cold soil in order to germinate. And then what they see is a little bit of warmth and, and sunlight. When it starts getting more sunlight, they'll pop out just like that. So here's the example I want to give you. Now this is potting soil, not potting soil, seed starting mix that's totally dry. I just set this up to give you the example. There's no water. One of the mistakes that you can absolutely make with onion seeds, because onion seeds, once you get them moist, you need to keep them moist until they germinate, because they're picky. They don't like going dry. So if you don't pre-soak this and make sure that it's totally full, totally wet all the way through. A lot of mistakes you'll make and you don't get germination is you'll wet it like this. You see, as you'll pour water on it, like I'm doing here. You see that? This is a very common mistake that a lot of beginning gardeners can make, is this mistake right here. So please pay attention. Right? Okay, so that looks moist, right? So you guys are thinking, okay, yep, I got my soil nice and wet, everything is totally fine. Now I'm ready to plant my onion seeds or pepper seeds or tomato seeds. It doesn't matter. It's nice and wet. It looks wet. Well, that's because it is wet. But what didn't happen is this down here, all the way down here, is totally dry, because there is no way the amount of water that I put right here made it all the way down here. It's impossible. I can feel it by weight. So this is the reverse method of soaking in the tray, because by putting these inside a tray of water, I'm not watering from the top. The water is being soaked up from the bottom all the way up to the top. So once the top gets moist like this, that tells me 100% that this is totally soaked. So the mistake is, now you might be thinking, yeah, this is totally wet, I can plant on here, but this is totally dry. So now it's going to reverse the action of the wicking. So this dry soil is going to wick all of this moisture that's up here, because this soil wants that moisture as well. So it's going to, instead of from the bottom to the top, it's going to wick. This dry soil is going to wick from the top to the bottom, and before you know it, your onions, in about 2-3 hours, your onion seeds are going to be totally dry, because this dry soil here came in and grabbed all of this wet soil here. So I hope that tip makes sense. So all I'm going to do now, guys, is I just take one of these, any type of plastic, and I just put it right over the onions and let them sweat it out. In about 7 to 10 days, very important that this has humidity and it stays moist, not soggy wet, just moist. And once, they get to a certain size, maybe 3-4 inches tall, I will be transplanting them each one of these cells, I'll be transplanting the whole bunch into these 4-inch little cups, and I will have zero problem selling these right here in my driveway to customers for $2 to $3 each pot. So, is there a profit to be made? Absolutely there is, if you do it the right way. I appreciate you guys spending the time with me. If this is a video you found helpful to you, please give the video a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. We can have a lot of fun here. And if you didn't like the video, feel free to give it a thumbs down. It still helps me either way. So, till next time, all of you stay safe.